Right now, we're having a very big nationwide conversation on the potential overthrowing of Roe versus Wade. Now, as most people know, Planned Parenthood and the abortion movement started out as something called the quote unquote Negro Project, created by Margaret Sanger, and it was part of a effort as for black population control. That's just what it was. That is where Planned Parenthood got started. What do you think the overturning of Roe versus Wade means for the black community?
Great question. I believe that the overturning of Roe versus Wade is primarily being done as a strategy for the U.S. white power structure to deal with its rapidly declining white population in this country. We know, and it has been well documented through the Associated Press, that 25 of the 50 United States have a white population that is losing more people than it is gaining in 25 of 50 United States. Part of that is due to the fact that there's no way you can control the influence of the L Plus campaign against America's public school children, a tactic, no doubt, directed at black children to help destroy the black family, but yet you cannot control its ability to remain aloof from white public school children. So as a result of this movement that has been popularized with President Barack Obama, it has actually caused as many problems in the white community with regard to population as it has in the black community with regard to the survival of the black family. Now, to your question, what does it mean to black America? I don't think it is a solution for us either, because we know that there's two big problems in this country right now. One is child trafficking in the black community. Two, kidnapping of black women, in particular for biological weapons research. So, in overturning Roe versus Wade, you now have a new population of black children who will be put up for foster care and adoption because abortion will now be legal. So rather than having to kidnap black children off the street into the underground trafficking market, they can now simply take those children from the foster care and the adoptive care program. Same thing when it comes to biological research and black children. They no longer have to kidnap the children for research on biological weapons. They will now have a very large exploitable population of unwanted black children that they can use for the sex market and for the biological research projects. Unfortunately, black people are at the bottom of the list when it comes to adopting black children. What that means, attorney, is we're going to have even more black children who will not have a home. So the reversal of Roe versus Wade is going to cause a lot of problems in the black community. Although I am a pro-lifer at heart, I can still recognize the political impact of this decision on black women and on the future of the black community.
And so, what do you think needs to be done to make? I've been making the argument that we need to be making abortion obsolete as opposed to making it illegal. As in, we need to ensure that as a society, we are giving mothers every tool possible to ensure that they can support and raise these children. But I think the co-equal of that has to be the conceptualization of reincorporating the black father into the community. I remember my little sister, she was having my nephew. And so all of her friends were just amazed that the baby daddy showed up at the hospital. That apparently is a big thing. Ain't seen the Negro since, but at least he showed up at the hospital. How can we work on reincorporating the black father into communities as to vitiate the need and the fear and the anxiety that often leads to the choice of abortion?
I really like your point there, attorney, with regard to making abortion obsolete rather than illegal, because I do believe that the fear of poverty is at the top of the list with regard to why so many sisters choose to abort their babies. It's not because they don't want them. It's out of fear that they won't be able to provide for those children. So I think the Black community, as we've discussed so many times before, needs to organize itself economically in order to create the safety net that is necessary in order to help these mothers and fathers who are still there raise these children. In fact, when you go back in our history in this country, attorney, you'll see that we actually created many of the first self-help community networks in America that provided for the hungry, the homeless, that provided for parents who weren't able to take care of their children. Many of the welfare programs in America, just like the school lunch program and the school medical clinics, which were borrowed from the Black Panther Party, many of the social programs of America were actually also borrowed from the Black community. Programs that we created during Reconstruction, in the aftermath of slavery, going into the early 20th century. A lot of these programs for welfare and WIC, aid to families with dependent children, if you look at the original blueprint for these programs, they were created and popularized and practiced in the Black community. And it's a shame that a community that actually created these type of social uplift programs and support movements have abandoned them. We have become so selfish as a community, and as a result of that, you see so many of our mothers choosing not to have those children. And the only other point I would say on the fathers there is a lot of fathers want to be there, but they're not allowed to be. Looking at my own situation, I remember when my oldest daughter was born, who just turned 20 years old on May 6th. Happy birthday to my princess. She's 20 years old now, but her mother didn't want me there at the birth because I did not choose to marry her. So we also have to be clear that there are women who don't want the men around unless they're willing to make them their wife, which is a whole nother conversation that needs to be had, because we should be marrying the mothers of our children, but at the same time, we shouldn't be forced to do so under that type of constraint and duress.
What role can Black men play in making abortion obsolete in the Black community? Because more often than not, when women choose not to choose life, the reason for that is a lack of support and the feeling that they are alone. What role do Black men play, not in outlawing, but making this obsolete?
That's a great question there, attorney, and it's a very complicated question because of women's reproductive rights. In many cases, no man can really stop a woman from terminating a pregnancy. And I have seen situations where the man wanted the child and was willing to raise the child, but the mother still did not want to go forward with the birth. And I have seen situations where the woman has chosen to terminate against the wishes of the father because he was not someone she really saw a future with. And I've also seen situations where women chose to terminate purely because they were not married, especially coming from the religious community where they could be looked down upon by their family, by the pastor, by the church. There's a lot of women who have terminated pregnancies due to public image alone, which I think is rather cruel, but it happens. So when we talk about the role of the man, I think we have to make better decisions, number one, of who we are engaging in relationships. Number two, we need to be more disciplined sexually so our women are not put in a position to have to choose between life and death for that unborn child. And I think that issue right there, the need for Black men to be more responsible sexually with our women, probably accounts for most of the trauma and challenge when it comes to women not needing to make a decision as to whether to terminate a child or not. But it gets confusing on my next point, attorney, and that is the income. when we're talking about the economics of the situation, because you have a lot of men who want their children to be born, and they're willing to struggle to make ends meet for that child to be born. But you have sisters who ain't interested in struggling with the father to raise this child. They can be of the mindset that if it's not going to be easy, if it's not going to be comfortable, I'd rather terminate the child, because many black women have been conditioned by the radical black feminists, by the queendom, by the sisterhood, that these black men will leave you. At some point, he's going to abandon you. And because of that, you need to err on the side of caution and terminate that baby. And that's why I think that these toxic personalities that we have in the black community, whether they be on the side of the manosphere or whether they be on the side of the radical black feminists, they are dangerous, because they are conditioning black women who want to keep their children, and they're conditioning black men and women who still believe in black love. They're conditioning them away from trying to find happiness with another black person heterosexually, and they're trying to instill them and convince them through fear that that father will one day leave you. And I truly believe that most of our brothers and sisters still believe in black love.